This
wanted to
conference will now be recorded.
Hey guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with us. Just some really kind of cool, exciting things that are happening in Illinois right now, especially with SREC. With effective July or September 1st, the SREC amount is going up considerably. Because what I found when you take a look at let me take a step back. SREC is generally based on the kilowatts AC size of the inverter. So the bigger the inverter, the more incentive they're going to get. So if we look right here on a 3.8 kilowatt system, back on August 1st, the customer would have got 4,800. Today, the customer is going to get 6,100. So realistically, you're picking up an extra, extra 20-25% of SREC money. In addition to that, we all know that the federal tax credit went up as well. So we went from 26% to 30%. So by going back and re-engaging our customers, we will have we'll have lots of things to talk about. Because what I'm noticing, like for instance, like if we do a $60,000 loan on a 10 kilowatt system, the payments are going to be about $12 a month less. On a 6 kilowatt, it's going to be about $14 a month less. So we really have some really kind of exciting things to go through and talk about with SREC. Does anybody have any questions about how the SREC program works or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's not something I've generally dealt with directly here in Illinois because everything's been based off of essentially like just the straight up state and federal incentives.
Bobby, I can't hear you.
I was saying in Illinois, a lot of stuff I've done has been just generally based off of a flat state and federal incentive. So I haven't spent a lot of time literally breaking down SRECs or pricing or any of that stuff.
That's it. Oops. Hey, Bobby, I couldn't hear you.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you. It doesn't matter with my phone, with my computer. I saw you talking.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was like, I don't know how to make it any better on my end. Yeah, I've not really dealt a whole lot with SRECs. Mostly I've dealt with like, a flat state and federal tax incentives. They're on a, state rebate or a federal tax incentive. So
here, let me pull out the actual spreadsheet for the pricing tool, and I'll kind of show you how everything works. Can everybody see the screen? Can everybody see my screen? Yep. Okay.
yeah.
Good.
Right. Cool.
We
Thank
can hear you.
Okay. So as I said earlier, the way SREC is the way SREC is figured is based on the AC size of the inverter. So the bigger the inverter, the more money they're going to get. So for example, if we have a 3.8 kilowatt system, you're going to notice that they're going to get a $6,200 SREC. If we change that to a 5 kilowatts, it goes up to 8,100. If we change it to a 6 kilowatt, it's going to go to 9,700. So it's really, really important to size the system up early. So like for instance, like a 3.8 kilowatt inverter, you can use up to a 5.7 kilowatt system. So what I will do, and Luis can definitely attest for what anything that's right around a 5 kilowatt, most people would be using a 3.8 kilowatt system or inverter, which would give the customer $6,100 worth of SREC. What I'll do is I'll size it up so that way I have using a 5 kilowatt inverter, and all of a sudden they're getting an additional $2,000 more. So our proposals, based on the inverters and the way we're speccing the system out, are actually going to give the customer considerably more SREC. Does that make sense for everybody? So right here, the old SREC amount last year in ComEd was $75.29 a block. That has gone up to $82.28 a block. And that's for anything that's 10 kilowatts and below. Anything that's 10 kilowatts and below, the block price went down to $71. So we just need to be real cognizant about, if we're selling people, a $12, $13, 13 kilowatt system, we just need to be cognizant that their block pricing on the SREC is going to be a little bit lower, but still, they're still going to see considerable amount of savings. Does that make sense for everybody? Do you
Yeah.
have any questions? Okay. Cool. So the next thing I'm going to go through is I'm going to show you what the IPA disclosure is. The IPA disclosure is something that, we have to fill out at or before the time of sale. And this is something that has to be manually done. So basically what we're doing is we're going through and we're disclosing everything to the customer. This basically talks to them about how they're purchasing solar. And says that it takes time because we have to get permits from your local municipality, from a PV and so forth. Then it's going to go through and talk about who the customer is. It's going to talks about who we are. Going through and talking about the system installer is, who the warranty provider is. That's all us again. Then it goes through and talks about the purchase price. It's $22,381. Nothing's due at signing. Nothing is due at the start of the system. And the final payment is due at install. We have the customer expecting $4,591 in SREC payments. Then it goes through and talks about how the SREC is paid out. The way the SREC is priced out is what we're doing is we're taking an estimated amount of what we plan on that system producing over the next 15 years. So whatever that amount is, Illinois is going to go through and front the customer the money. The only requirement that Illinois Shines and SREC have is that the customer has to have monitoring connectivity at all times. Does anybody know why?
Yeah, because if the system doesn't give you what you're supposed to be getting, it's got to be, service of fixed, because that's a contractual out. I mean, you're supposed to get those number of kilowatt hours produced by the system, right?
True. That you're absolutely correct, Will. But let me add on to that a little bit. The reason why Illinois wants to see it is if the system is not producing as designed,
Right.
the state of Illinois has the ability to claw back some of that SREC money from the client. So we have to basically make sure that the customer understands that we have to have Wi-Fi connectivity at all times. If for whatever reason customer does not have Wi-Fi or does not provide us with that Wi-Fi information, we're going to be putting a cell card on that. So I mean, and there's an additional cost on the deal, but the thing is, we don't want to chase these customers. I mean, we want the customers to be happy and be able to get their SREC as soon as possible. So once this happens, then the next thing it goes through, talks about the total cost of payments. Basically, the way we figure the total cost of payments for this amount, we're assuming that the customer is not going to be paying down their federal tax credit, not going to be reinvesting their state tax or their federal, and not reinvesting their SREC. So we take that payment and we multiply it by 300, and that's how I came up with the 41,584. Does that make sense to everybody?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. So then it talks about how our payment terms, if you don't pay us, about the late fee, on our system timing, we're telling everybody it's going to be 90-day install, 120 days to PTO. We do our best to get everything close, tighter up than that, but I'd rather give them worst case scenario. Also, something that we do that not a lot of our other installers do is we give the customer what is known as a lien waiver. What a lien waiver is basically we're telling and certifying to the customer that all bills have been paid. So, for example, I know of a couple customers that were doing business with another solar company that I won't mention, but the solar company didn't pay for the material, and didn't pay the installer. So, 2 months later, the customer had a lien on their house for the material as well as the install charge. And again, that's at absolutely no fault of their own. And from here, it talks about what our system size is. It's a 4.51 AC, which is 3.8 kilowatt DC. It's showing what our annual production is we estimate it to be. Most systems are going to degrade about 0.5% a year. So then we have an average 25% lifetime, which basically gives us at year 25, their system should be producing approximately 87.5% of what it is now. Then it goes through, it talks about the roof, talks about the solar edge, and talks about net metering. So, I mean, it's pretty simple on what it goes through. It talks about what their estimated savings are going to be on positive cash flow. So, I mean, that's huge. Then it basically, now it's going through and talking about timing of the incentive payments. This is something that's super, super important on, for the people that have been doing SREC for a while, back on December 14th of 2020, all of a sudden we got an email from Illinois Shine going, oh, by the way, we're out of money. It's like, okay. So basically anybody that purchased anything from probably mid-July 2020 through the end of 2020, when the program ran out of money, got put on a wait list. And so fast forward 9 months later, in September 15th, Governor Pritzker went through reallocated funds through 2033. So we got a lot of time to work through this. So they opened up everything on December 14th. Everything was going fine. At the end of May, Illinois said, "Hey guys, we're redoing our portal," which was fine. So that kind of took things down a little bit. And then in August, the broker that everybody uses to process their SREC or their Illinois Shine payments is a company called SREC Trade. All of a sudden that they decided that they didn't want to process SREC payments for the state of Illinois anymore. So basically now September 1st, everybody's transitioning, not just Eco, but everybody else too, is transitioning to Carbon Solutions Group. So based on that, it's probably going to slow down the payments. So as a good rule of thumb with Illinois SREC, it's going to be 8 to 12 months after the system's turned on before they can expect to get paid.
8 to 12?
Yes, sir. I can lie to you.
Yeah.
I can lie to you and say it's going to be the next day, but it's not. I mean, but it's also
for a year almost.
Well, sure. How long does it take to get your federal tax credit back?
It's half a year, I guess. To the tax credit. I mean, till you file your tax in April, April 15th or whatever, So
again, all of our loans re-am between month 16 and month 18, so they'll have plenty of time to get the SREC money before the loan re-amortizes. So the 12 months really shouldn't be an issue.
Correct. You're right.
So that's pretty much SREC. From there, what I want to do is I want to kind of go through our contracts. How many people actually go through the contracts with the customer? Please don't answer that because we really need to start disclosing things, because it's super important, because the customer needs to know exactly what they're buying and exactly what they're getting. So when you for the people who haven't seen our installation agreement, this is what it looks like. This happens to be a Texas install contract, shows the contract date, shows the customer's name and information, shows the date, shows the system size that they're buying or system price, Then it's also going to go through and describe the scope of work. We're going to be installing 24 Jinko panels, which is a 9.84 kilowatt system. We're also going to be installing a solar edge inverter with a line side tap. This shows that section 2 shows that we're going to be financed through GoodLeap at a interest rate of 1.99 for 300 months. From there, basically our contracts are saying that 60 days from the last addendum of a contract is pretty much when we think it's going to be done, as well as 90 days for 90 days for PTO. Pricing on this agreement is for 14 days, so they better sign it quick. Also, we do not guarantee SREC pricing at all. I mean, any rebates or tax credits or anything like that. They need to talk to their tax advisor. Number 7, rights of cancellation. I mean, they have 3 days. It's not 3 weeks, not 3 months. They have 3 days. And a lot of people don't quite understand that, but it's one of those things. Once after the 3-day right is when we start spending money on it. Once we start spending money on it, there's going to be cancellation fees involved. This talks about the interconnection agreements. Basically, it talks about how we're going to go through and we're going to process all of their permitting, and any rebates, any incentives, and any interconnection. All of that's going to be on ECO's responsibility. The property conditions. This is something that the customer needs to. If the customer has any known defects in their property, this is where they tell us. If they have roofs that are leaking, if they have any electrical issues, if they have anything else, they need to alert us now on stuff like that. Number 5, cost related unforeseen conditions. People that have been selling solar a lot knows the last year has been troublesome at best as far as getting equipment. Equipment that we thought we had lined out today, the next day we didn't have it. So we just need to understand that it's all up to them, not us. I mean, because keep into consideration, as far as you guys, out there, you guys want everything installed as quickly as you can. I mean, believe it or not, we want it even more. And the reason why we say that is because we got our pre-construction costs, we got material costs, we got M1 payments to you, we got permits. I mean, realistically, we could have thousands of dollars tied up in a project that we won't get back until we get glass on the roof. So that's that. Property access, what, you're gonna have to let our contractors on the property. I mean, if electrical box is downstairs, you're gonna have to let us in. Title loss just basically goes through and it talks about all the equipment. Once it gets delivered, it's their responsibility to safeguard it. Termination default, we have the ability with 7 days written notice for any material breach to cancel the contract. Material breaches would be roof issues, stuff like that. Anything, if they have electrical issues, we can't get permits. They put a addition on the house without a permit and they won't let us get permits. I mean, stuff like that happens all the time. Basically remedies upon clients and contractors thing. Basically, we're gonna immediately stop working, and if they don't pay us, we're gonna go through and do our best to recover our monies and so forth. And that includes putting a mechanics lien on their house. Basically, when we put a mechanics lien on their house, we're basically covering the cost of all the equipment that we put out there, all of our time and material. Our cancellation on our contracts has 15% cash cancellation clause. So again, we need to get our money back. We need to get your M1s back. So that's kind of the method of the madness there. Our insurance, basically we keep workman's comp, we keep general liability. Indemnification, basically you hold harmless anything that might happen to our employees and agents while they're on your property. Subrogation basically means that you're going to hold us harmless for any liabilities that might come up. Governing laws, it's going to happen in this place in the state of Texas. Basically this is a waiver of performance, privacy, publicity. We have the right to use and display pictures of their homes. If they don't want us to do that, they have the ability to opt out. Our warranties, we have a 10-year workmanship warranty, which basically is going to cover all defects and so forth with our equipment. We also have a 5-year roof penetration warranty, which basically means anything that we put up on the roof and it starts leaking, we're going to guarantee that for 5 years that's going to be covered. Limits of liability, this is basically, the legalese, which is basically, goes through and talks about what we're liable for, the entire agreement. Basically everything that we're promising to do is in this agreement. No verbal promises or anything like that are accepted. If we promise anything to a customer, whether it be cash back, whether it be, a service panel, whatever, it needs to be in writing, and we need to make sure of that. And when we're putting your deal together, if there's stuff like that we need to know, if we're giving the customer $1,000 cash back, if we're doing this, we're doing that, you really need to let us know, so that way we can have everything on the contracts. Then the next part is basically they understand that they have a copy of the contract, and then this is the 3-day notice of cancellation. I know I kind of briefly went through some stuff. Does anybody have any questions on that? Any concerns? No? Anybody? Maybe.
No, everything is clear.
Okay, cool. So let's see. So this is the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the Good Leap, Mosaic, and Dividend bank contracts. The Good Leap one is just really kind of, they did a really good job of simplifying things. Because when you go through here, here's the first page. It's pretty simple. It says your loan amounts can be $30,000 for 25 years and an interest rate of 1.99. Basically talks about what the first monthly payments are going to be. It's going to be $95 a month. And then at month 18, they have a couple of choices. They can either A, put down their federal tax credit and the payments will stay approximately the same, or B, they pocket the money and the payments go up. Okay. Also, for you guys that are in Illinois, all of these bank contracts do not, I repeat, do not take into consideration the SREC payments. They're only thing when they're doing the value proposition on the loans, they're only taking into consideration the federal tax. So what this is known as a truth in lending box. Basically what this is, I'm sure anybody that's bought a car, bought a house has seen this. It basically goes through and describes all the nuts and bolts of the system. We have an annual percentage rate of 1.99. The finance charge is 82.84, and that's just an estimate. And I'll explain why in a minute. Amount financed is $30,000, and the total payments are $38,284. And once again, that's an estimate. So the way the payment structure is going to work is your first payment is going to start approximately 2 months after the start date. Then you're going to have 17 more of those. Then at month 18, on this value on these loan docs, they're assuming that you're not going to be paying down your federal tax credit because they have no control over that. And that's why they have the estimate right here, because this number right here is assuming that they do not pay their federal tax credit down. If they do pay their federal tax credit down, it's going to go approximately 30% less. So that's why they have that as an estimate. Does anybody have any questions on this? Right. Yeah, and again, payment start approximately 60 days after the glass is on the roof. Any other questions? No? That's pretty much the nuts and bolts, of the contract. The rest of the stuff is all really kind of legalese. This is the promissory. This is the promissory note. Which talks about the term, the amount of payments, the initial monthly payments, the APR. The target balance would be what you're planning on getting it down at month 18, and that also shows what your estimated date would be for your loan to ream. Then this is just all I can go through this all in depth if you guys want to at a later date. It talks about what they do if they're in default and all that. The other thing that that both GoodLeap and Dividend do, and this is something new for a lot of loans, is they will allow the customer to reamortize the loan more than once. So for instance, to tie on to what William was saying earlier, if the SREC comes in late, after the ream period, heaven forbid, they could still call up GoodLeap or Dividend or Mosaic and say, hey, look, I'm going to send you a couple $1,000s more, and I want to lower my payment on that. So all they have to do is they send the payment in, and then at that point they'll reamortize the loan based on the amount of payments that are due and the amount left on the loan. So what that will do for you is it gives the customers the ability, if they can't, let's say for instance you got somebody that can't collect all of their federal tax credit on in year 1 or year 2, what it will do, because the IRS gives you 5 years to collect your federal tax credit. So for example, if they don't collect it in the first 2 years before the loan reams, and all of a sudden they get it at year 3, they could take that money, send it in a GoodLeap, and lower the payment back to what we originally thought it was going to be when we did the value proposition. Anybody have any questions on that? But the real key of what we really need to be disclosing to these clients is the truth in lending box, because that's really the nuts and bolts. That's what backs up our value proposition that we talked about. So the customer really needs to understand what they are getting themselves into. So the next loan I'm going to go through, I'm going to show you, is going to be the Dividend loan. It's very similar. You'll notice it doesn't have all the prettiness that GoodLeap does, but it goes right here with the truth in lending box. Goes through, talks about again your annual percentage rate, your finance charge, amount financed, and total payments. You also notice that's an estimate. Then at month 18, the loan will reamortize, and again you see all these estimates. What happens a couple times with Dividend loans is people will freak out when they see this, but what happens is you need to read the highlighted line that's below that. Basically what it says, if the customer does not make the incentive payments, the payment's going to go up. If the customer makes the incentive payment, it's basically going to stay approximately the same. So does that make any sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Prepayment amount, again, it's a simple interest loan, just like on your mortgage. If you go through and make your if you pay it off after day 1, you're basically going to owe 1 day's worth of interest. So that's pretty simple. So from here it goes back to the promise to pay. It goes through and talks about the payment schedule, which is going to be approximately 60 days after glass is on the roof. And again, if they want, and at the very beginning, if the customer doesn't like, and this is with all the lenders, doesn't like how the payment date rolls, because the payment date is going to roll based on when we install it. So if they want to make adjustments on that, all they have to do is call customer service, and they're more than happy to do that for you. Okay, here's something else. Basically, it's a security interest. There is not a lien on the house. The only thing that these lenders are doing is putting a UCC filing on the house, on the equipment. which basically means that they have a security interest just on the equipment that's on the house. You know, the racking, the inverters, the panels, I mean, the conduit for that matter. So if, for whatever reason, if the customer does not stops paying on their solar, they will not lose their house. So, you know, people are always concerned about that, but it's, I mean, it's not, it's tied to the equipment on the house, but it's not tied to the house. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, then when it says like, goes back and talks about the non-fixtures collateral, like the nuts and bolts and all that, I mean, that all belongs to them as well. So that's pretty much the basics of this contract, basics of the Good Leap. Mosaic's going to operate approximately the exact same. As you go down, you'll notice the same truth in lending box. That's all their arbitration agreements. You'll notice the exact same truth in lending box. It's just we really need to sit down and take the time so that customers absolutely know what they're buying. The other thing that we also have to keep into consideration, you know as well as I do, that the customer has to take advantage of direct pay, or else their interest rate's going to go up. With Mosaic, they give you 25 basis point discount if you do direct pay. Good Leap and Mosaic are a half point. So, and again, when we're sitting out propositions or proposals, it's all based on them doing the auto pay. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time with you guys because I haven't done a training, and what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to do a half hour to 45-minute trainings twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. I like to do them generally earlier in the day, and we can go through contracts. Our next thing we're going to talk about is all the ancillary documentations that the customer has to talk about. We're also going to go talk about what it takes to build a proposal, and anything technical, as far as the nuts and bolts, the financial aspect and all that, I can handle. Chris Kelly and Wayne are doing a really good job of the sales training, but I'm more of just kind of the numbers guy and stuff like that. So, does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to see anything?
What about getting a copy of the contract that you went over? We got the financing contract.
Okay.
What about the contract? Because we don't have a contract that we need to
I'll
explain.
shoot that over to you as soon as we get off the phone.
Yeah. That's Ecosystem's contract, right?
Yes, sir. I'll
Yeah,
get that over to you as soon as we get off the phone or off the call.
Okay, that's fine.
Anybody else have any questions? Complaints? Anybody want to yell at me? Now's a good time to yell at me. No? All right, guys. If you guys don't have anything else, let's call this a day. I do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys spending time out of your day to meet with me, and let's sell some solar together.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.